It's really, it really is, the Lord. I don't want that to sound trite, but because I've had to learn through the years what it is really to have relationship with the Lord. And tell you what, it's taken just getting on my face and crying out to him and beating the ground and saying why and, all of these things. And yet then the Holy Spirit really meeting me in a very personal level. And I'll have to say, I'm a strong believer in Christian counseling. Even psychology has some good things about it.
Yeah,
it really does. A lot of people just, we don't need those shrinks,
Right.
But there is some wise things out there about it. And when it's coupled together with the truth and the Word of God, then it's healing. It just totally is. I'm an example of that. We really do have to find our identity. I said it earlier, be comfortable in our own skin. I needed to be comfortable in who I am in every way, as an American, as a white American.
Right.
That can be,
right, yeah, that can be challenging to understand.
And as a simple New Mexican girl, even going out to California, people used to say, this girl that used to wear a lot of turquoise and, and you were just so simple and just kind of this little country thing. And I said, I guess that's my mold. I guess that's who I am.
Right.
But, and yet God can use everything. And I always tell that to all of our different students to come, that you are your unique self. We had a Russian girl that came and she kept trying to do contemporary Christian music. And I said, well, play me one of your contemporary Christian songs. Well, it sounded it was minery, it was very Slavic and all that, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I said, this isn't really a contemporary Christian song that everybody's going to just latch on to, but it is you, and it is so beautiful when you do it.
Yep.
Like we have found out as missionaries, some of the Africans make such good missionaries. Some of the people from India do, because they can rough it a little better than us. They've grown up in simpler situations, and God can use them. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off on tangents, but it does relate to all of us, and me being comfortable in who I am. And even some of the things that I felt that I didn't understand for years. And I'll have to say, one of them was, well, my book, there's a lot of adventures. I went to the Arctic Circle, I was part of the Jesus movement. Then I traveled all over, went to Europe, was there when the Berlin Wall came down. It was all very exciting.
Right.
That's exciting stuff. But still, you're living with yourself in your inner being. And one of the things is that we all desire this soulmate. Mm-hmm. We were made for that. We were made for relationship. And so whether it's, friendships, strong families are so foundational to people. And that's, I think, so much a part of crime and everything else in our societies worldwide is the breakdown of the family. Yeah. And I had a good, strong family, except that my dad was an alcoholic, and he died an alcoholic when I was 12 years old. Oh, wow. It was secret in Alamogordo. He was about to run for mayor. Oh, wow. It didn't all come out. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that about people, that they honored him in his strength.
In his strength, yes.
Yeah, but we in the family knew what was going on. Wow. And that's been through my family, but not only that, but my brother got into the alcohol stuff too, and he would come home from college and abuse me. Oh. And as a child, 7-year-old child, that affected me in a deep, deep way. I just started being afraid of men.
Of men, yes.
And even though, I get older as a teenager, and there were some good-looking guys, and I was attracted to different ones, but then I found myself, some of these good-looking guys were real jerks,
right.
And really hurt me badly. Mm-hmm. I even had one come up and apologize for it years ago at a class reunion. I thought, that's cool, but anyway, and so I started having this, still wanting that soulmate thing, wanting friendship, all that, being more attracted to women. And of course I thought, can't do that. And especially in my society in the 60s.
Right.
And only real radical people were going those kind of routes. And so it was just so secret in my life. And it wasn't during my college years is when I first got into a relationship. And then I would get out of it, and then, you know, a few years later, then I would fall again. It's not like I've had a lot of just good, genuine friendships,
Right.
but every once in a while there would be someone that I was more than a friendship attracted to, and it was kind of that deep soulmate kind of thing. Like, wow, I could really communicate. And with women, this is one thing I'll say. I've studied and seen a lot of other people's testimonies. Women desire that someone I can talk to, all that kind of thing. Men are a little different.
Yeah.
Most men that are gay men have had almost hundreds of men,
Right. Yeah.
you know, in their sexual experience.
They're still very, no one will like me for saying this, but they're still very manly in their pursuits. And it's still very much about a body count.
With men or
Women, yeah, exactly.
I have a chance to talk to young men, which I do in my schools, you know, and I say, look, learn to you want to have a wife that you will respect, that, you know, you all are going to be faithful to each other one day, and they all do. And I said, be kind to women now. Because what you do can affect them for a lifetime. That's my story.
It is.
I was affected for a lifetime. And so it really took some years of going in and out of those kind of things, and still having some boyfriends and almost getting married, you know. And because, and I think, very honestly, I don't think everybody's honest about it, but I think a lot of people can go either way. I just really do. In the my observation of life and people through the years, some people I never would have thought would have ever gone into homosexual relationships after being married for years did.
Right.
I've seen it happen, and so I think that it's again that desire for strong relationship, and that's why I think strong Christian marriages is the most beautiful thing that there is. You know, and that just to see how the Lord, I mean, Jesus says, you know, he calls us his bride. It's just such an important relationship. And so anyway, me figuring this out, and really the key for me, and I'll have to say I was already in my 40s. This still took years, maybe late 30s. But anyway, I just said, okay, God, I'm going to believe you more than I believe my emotions. And I'm just going to follow because you're smarter than me. I mean, that sounds so ridiculous. Of course, God's smarter than you. But I had to really act on that.
Well, that's, you know, we have to die to ourselves in so much of that. And I think, you know, do you think that it was part of operating out of fear from the trauma that you suffered as a little girl, and you needed that kind of safety net of being with somebody that you felt like you could trust, because you know? And I think that's the thing, is like no relationship based out of fear is will ever work. You know, I mean, you cannot have, if you're fearful of what that person might do or say, or if it is if it is men or women, basing your relationship out of fear and then looking for that. Do you think that
feel safe there?
Right, safe. Do you think that some of that safety is a little bit of selfishness that you're looking for? You're looking for somebody that's really going to
maybe a little bit. We all have a bit of selfishness in it. I mean, we live with ourselves. You know, I don't want somebody to be mean to me, or you know, I want people to be nice to me and to like me and all that. But even yesterday, I had a conversation with a friend, just going through a lot, and one of her best friends just said something out of the pressure that her friend was in that was very hurtful to her. And she was just like going into depression, like just this rejection thing. Rejection is that's why we need to know we are accepted. God accepts us just as we are.
Right.
And I love the Chosen series.
Yes,
I'll have
me
to
too.
say
Yes,
that,
yeah.
you know, because that's what Mary Magdalene went through. That's what even Peter went through, as they saw what Matthew, who in the series is kind of autistic. It's interesting, but they realized this man Jesus was so accepting them, just as they were, and he wanted other people to see those strengths and who they could be.
Exactly.
And that's the thing is, as I had a conversation for about an hour last night with my friend, I said, I know this friend loves you. We all know each other very well.
Right.
And she said something. She'd be brokenhearted if she knew she had hurt you so much by those words.
Right.
But
Yes.
she was just like dwelling. I said, when you say you're in depression, what are you thinking about? See, our thoughts are very important.
They are.
And she said, I'm just thinking about, I don't know if anybody wants to spend any time around me because I seem to be. And I said, that isn't true. I said, and I just started telling her about all of her beautiful, and these are true,
Right.
attributes.
Right.
I said, I so love being around you. You're doing this, but I know you go through hard times.
Right.
I said, I'm at a place in life, very honestly, I'm not going through so many hard times anymore.
Sure.
But when I was younger, I did.
You did, yeah.
There were some people that heard my belly aches and all that.
Yeah.
And especially my counselors. Right. I'm very grateful for just wise counselors through the years. And there's some people who they're too proud or something, both men and women too,
Yes,
but
both.
especially men sometimes. I'm okay. I don't need any counseling.
Right. Yeah.
I think we all need counseling.
I mean, I've had counseling, sporadically throughout my life, and every time it has always helped me, unlock something, whatever. And I understand that depression. I've struggled with that a lot, and I think it's interesting. We all have, we all sin and we do bad things and we say things we don't mean and all this sort of stuff. But I also think that we do all have a specific cross to bear. That every day we must say no to bearing that cross. I'm like, God's bearing it for me now. And I'm a free person. For me, it is that depression. It is that negative thought. It is that going into a dark place. That's and pretty much every day, I mean, not all the time. There are plenty of moments that I've had a lot of liberation and freedom from it. So it gets easier and easier as I go. But I have to look for the warning signs.
That's right.
Of that depression.
That's very key, knowing the warning signs. I went through one of the, I'd very highly recommend, it's called Healing for the Nations. And they have a conference ground now. When I went through it, they were just doing their conferences. It was a week-long Cadillac version of their thing. And they go deep, deep into your hurts. And and they show you how these things set up strongholds so that something happens and it triggers that thing. And so you start thinking, and so for me, I would start saying, like some man would tease me about something, or I think, well, I don't matter to men anyway. And that's the thought, which was an untrue thought. I mean, they were just teasing me. I mean, they were still a friend. And it's just because I had been hurt by men several times. And so, but I had to bring the Holy Spirit in and bring the truth into it. I thought, that's not really true that I don't matter to men.
Right.
There are some men that have been very kind to me, that have been, very fatherly, very, nice brothers. And so I just have to bring it into line. Instead of believing the lie. When we believe a lie, we can go all kinds of places.
Exactly, and that's something that, this kind of thing that's going on in society, not to get too deep into this, but I think it's relevant because, we are policing a lot of thoughts. People want to avoid triggers. And any counselor, Christian or not, hopefully they are still telling you and teaching you that the only way to avoid triggers is to not make that a trigger anymore, which means you have to confront your fear face on.
You have to learn strategies of how to recognize it. That's what they would say, recognize what that stronghold is and take that thought captive. And see, that's what the simple things that the word says is taking those thoughts captive. Think, okay, what is this thought about? Where did it come from? It came from this happening to me and this. They're real things that happened in our lives. That guys were jerks or whatever, and they happened. But even my brother, I tell you the best reconciliation story in my thing, my brother who abused me, he married a good Christian woman later in life, And last 15 years of his life, he became like a father to me. He was 12 years older than me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I would always go out. His wife was a wonderful pianist. We made a hymns album together. And when I go out there, and he actually asked my forgiveness for he said, I was not a good big brother. I'm so sorry about that. And that was icing on the cake. I had already forgiven him, and I was building relationship. But when he said that, I thought, oh, thank you, God. And he even left me an inheritance.
Wow.
You know, I mean, my parents didn't have anything to leave me an inheritance, but he did. Yeah. Because and I realized, I thought, Walter became my father. He really did. The father I didn't have because he died at 12. And there is a reconciliation story with my stepfather, who I didn't like for years.
Right.
But that ended up fine too.
And that's the thing, is if we don't let go of that bitterness, we work through the forgiveness and those strongholds of things in our own life, we will miss those opportunities when someone comes, even if it's years after. See, people don't realize that living a life is a lifetime. Everything's not going to happen, immediately. Like somebody wrongs you and then they ask for forgiveness, or you wrong them and then you ask for forgiveness. Some things take time, and people are very uncomfortable with that because they're like, no, there needs to be justice now and this needs to happen now. But really, truly, that's just the way it is. And the only person you are responsible for is yourself, And if you had not worked through that forgiveness with your brother and had not been at that place, you might have been deaf to him coming and asking. You could have been like, well, I'm not going to forgive you, and missed out on that relationship building and change.
That thing of root of bitterness is very real. If we do not forgive, then these things can fester up in us. And I've seen, when you go to old folks' homes, sometimes people either have one foot into heaven, or they're old biddies, and they're bitter as can be, and it starts coming out. And I've seen that recently in a couple of situations where people didn't allow themselves to be healed of that thing. And I think it's just like taking that bull by the horn and saying, I see you, you ugly thing, and you know what? God and me are going to wrestle you down.
Yep, exactly.
That's what we do.
That's what you've said, what's so beautiful about your book, is it's not only about many of your exploits and how Seek Ye First came to be, and that song that's touched millions of people, but it's about the reconciliation, about the stories of forgiveness that you've worked through. And you had mentioned earlier, I just want to touch on this, that you tried to write a book, several different times, and then you met Becky, and the timing with not only her story, and where she was in her life, but with you. And you said you had to work through several more things.
Oh, yeah.
Before you could write them down and share them with us. And was that just kind of more of these taking different thoughts captive and digging out that bitter root? Or?
And I think it's when we really, really turn our lives over to God, and which I really did do back in 1970, but it was such a process over the years. I mean, the thing about same-sex relationship didn't go away right away.
Right.
I would get in and out of one and think, okay, God, I'm okay now, right? No more. No, but I still had some deeper healing that needed to happen for some of those, even about, just different aspects of my life. But anyway, it's just that it is, like you said, a lifetime, and that, when you get older, I mean, I'm 74 now, and actually, though, I'm a leap year baby, and I've only had 18 birthdays.
So you're 18.
18 birthdays. So I'm trying to stay young.
Why doesn't
my body doesn't seem to know that, but anyway, still, I'll have to say that the reason I could write this book is because now I've been healed enough, probably not 100%. Right. None of us are till we're with the Lord, I think. But I'm healed enough that I can talk about these things openly and not just feel totally ashamed. I mean, I am ashamed, but at the same time, it doesn't, affect me. I have had a couple of people, even here in Santa Fe, that have rejected me because of my past.
Oh, wow.
I'm sad for them for that.
Right, yeah, it's not you.
Because they need to understand they're going to not just run into me, but they're going to run into a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And they need to know how to handle this. very honestly, I don't think the church is very good
No.
at even talking about it, and that's why all kinds of people,
Yeah.
from my churches, all kinds of Christians are, and I tell them, I said, listen, I've been really honest in this.
Yes.
There's a lot of, spiritual things about it, except I'm really honest.
Well, I think
And I'm
that's-
sure some people like,
Right,
really?
I know, yes. It
I
was shocking,
don't
yeah.
care.
But that's the beautiful thing, and I think one of the reasons why we're in such an interesting spot in the world today, with a lot of the temper and the strife and a lot of the division, comes from the fact that much of the church, especially within the Western world, where the church has been such a stronghold for centuries, have refused to discuss and talk about these things. And that it's the true with entertainment and arts. People would look at artists as being too liberal or too loose, or you're going to go play in a bar, you can't do that and be a Christian and play Sunday worship. You can't do both. And but what happens is absolutely the Lord accepts us as we are, where we are.
Yeah.
But what happens that's so different about following Christ and having a relationship with Him versus many other things is He accepts us, we're loved, and as we're living every day with Him, we end up working through all these strongholds and we change. Yeah. So it's not about the church, in my opinion, it's not about the church who's saying, we're going to accept everybody how you are. Don't worry about changing. God loves you anyway. It's more like everybody come. As you learn about Christ, you're going to want to change. See, that's the thing. It's like you would have these downfalls where you would get into a relationship and then the Lord would be working through you with that, and that relationship would end. And you'd say, Lord, I want to change. And you had to make that conscious effort because you love the Lord and you see how He has, it's hard to explain how He affects change, because it's not like a master, it's not like a teacher, it's not like a parent, it's all of those
But it
things
is personal
combined.
relationship. It's one of the first things we tell people, that it's not about ritual. Around here I know very many. In fact, I pray regularly with some Catholics that are very. There's some issues I have theologically with the Catholic Church, but I know some very devout Catholics who really know Jesus.
Yes.
And I love fellowshipping with them. But we say it's not just going to church and you do the Mass and you do all the ritual things. But it really is this personal relationship, and that's one of the first things we tell them. But I'll tell you what, it's a lifetime, just like it is, I'm sure, in marriage and stuff.
Yes.
It's a lifetime of getting to know how the Lord wants to be there for you. And I'll tell you what, even I'm a very outgoing person and stuff, but when I love my times alone. I go on a lot of long drives by myself.
Nice.
I just love those times. It's just me and the Lord, and the Lord speaking to me. And I'm never lonely. It's more like I don't know. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a just alone time with the Lord.
Right.
It's not a lonely time, like,
Right.
oh, nobody's around paying attention to me, or loving on me. And when you learn to have that fellowship with God, I don't know if you've ever read an author, Brennan Manning.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he has some incredible things about kind of solitude with the Lord. And they are very deep. I've heard him speak personally.
Right.
And that is key to, I think, the strength we can have, no matter what situation. I thought if I got put in a jail cell by myself, I'd still be with the Lord, and so.
Exactly, and that is such a beautiful thing about how God is so, He comes to us so individually in that relationship, because that's exactly what it is. It's not a big compass thing, and then through those alone times, there's inspiration that can come as an artist and clarity and everything.
And very honestly, it's what's made me able to be single all my life, even though I have desired, and a few years ago, I actually thought, after I had been, healed from some of my stuff, I really thought there was a relationship developing that was going to turn into marriage for me. It didn't at the time. It's got to be mutual,
Right. Yeah.
And But at the same time, I'm okay. I would have desired when I was young. They said, "Well, how do you think you'll be in old age?" I said, "Well, I don't think I'll be alone. I think I'll grow old with somebody," and that hasn't really happened.
Right.
And yet, at the same time, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of community.
You do.
And community, and it's what the church. We have a lot of widows in our church right now. And I tell you what, it's important. The Bible's very specific about taking care of widows.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it firsthand.
Wow.
Those ladies, they need us there for them. And some widowers.
Yes.
Those men too. They need that community, and that's what I love about a good
functioning
fellowship church.
Right.
That's what we're meant to be for each other.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Karen, this has been such a phenomenal conversation, and you and I could talk all day, and we have before, and we will again some more. I just have one last question.
Okay.
Well, what is the one thing in the arts that we're not talking about but really should be?
Well, the nature of arts at all, it's very fluid. It's going to be always changing, the way we do it. But I think the fundamental thing of the human need, I remember years ago when even electronic music started coming out. Right. Like, we don't need orchestras anymore. We can do it all on the... But you know what? I think the thing of watching live performers will never get old.
Right.
I mean, we all are human, and we like that human touch.
We do.
And so I just think the arts always have to keep that humanness about it. And no matter how technical everything gets, that as long as we are humans, we will. I don't think that's going to change.
Right. Hopefully not.
We will always need that human touch.
Yes.
And so I think that's the thing about the arts, and it always needs. It doesn't have to be Christian art. Crucifixes and things like that. I mean, to look at a beautiful scene. I live with an artist, and she does historical things of Native Americans. And you just see one of her art things, and you see God throughout it, because he is so holistic. That is, he made the universe, he made beautiful things, he made taste, he made feel, he made all of these things for us to enjoy. That's what really the life that he wants us to have.
He made us a very physical world to enjoy.
And emotional. It's physical and emotional world. Yeah. And yet it is an eternal world. And that takes faith to believe that. But I tell you what, at the end of the day, even if I just experience this lifetime believing in this eternal God, and at the end of the day, I just turn back to dust and nothing, and there's no eternal life, it would still been worth it. Because I have so much more peace than other people I see around me. But I believe there's much more than that.
Right, yeah, exactly.
By faith, I believe there is going to be eternal life. I am going to see my family again. I'm the last one left, except for my stepbrother, of my immediate family. And, I miss them all. I hate burying all of my family,
Right.
But I know there's hope. I savor the memories, and I look towards the future, And so, I mean, to me, all of that is artistic, because we have a very artistic God. He loves beauty. Maybe just one last story.
Yes.
I was coming back on a airplane once, and sitting by this guy, and he's come to Santa Fe for a conference on aesthetics.
Okay.
I said, really? That's interesting. It was up at the St. John's College up here. And I said, that's right. And I was telling me about it, and he was Buddhist himself. And he said, why are you so interested in this? I said, oh, well, it's because I'm a Christian musician, and I believe that God is the one who invented aesthetics. He invented beauty. I believe that's where it all came from, because we are made in his image. And he said, that's a very interesting perspective. Okay. Would you come and share that perspective with? And I so wanted to. I had a conflict, and I wasn't able to go to that. But I thought, see, the world doesn't always know that all of this beauty we see around us, that is God's love just shining through. And that's what he wants all of us to experience, that abundant life in him.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's all about art.
Yep.
It's all about create. Some people are more creative in the kitchen, you know, which
Yeah.
we all love to experience.
Yeah.
And some of us are creative with visual things, and some of us it's with music, you
Yes,
know.
I
But
think-
it's all art.
It is. I think all of us are creative because we were created to create a good meal or a family or a garden or a book or a music.
And it makes life exciting.
It
I
does.
mean, that's what we love. We love to go to concerts, and we love to, you know, see a good movie or whatever. And we just love experiencing it. We love having a good meal,
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
and that's art.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for joining me. And we are going to have all the links in the description below for her book and her music so that you can follow along. And if you're interested in, are you still doing the music school?
We don't right now. I'm not saying that I'm through doing them, but I'm just gotten involved with a whole lot of other things right now, and kind of getting this book out and stuff like that. But I am mentoring young
Mentor.
people
See?
still.
Exactly. Good.
Yeah.
So make sure you.
Make sure you hit up Karen. I'll have her contact info from her website and everything in the description below. And thank you so much. I can't thank Karen enough for being so vulnerable and sharing her trials and obstacles and also her triumphs in this episode. I hope it's encouraged you to stay creatively courageous. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I upload every week.